Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you're watching us live on Facebook, we do appreciate that. And if you're checking us out later, we do upload these shows to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. You can check them out there. We have audio and video versions for you to watch. They are free, so don't forget that. Getting into it today, we are going to be talking a lot about the coronavirus. Sorry, guys, it just will not go away. Please remember to wear a mask. We are trying to get rid of it. But first, we're going to get into your traffic real quick. Looking pretty clear today, especially compared to yesterday. You had some heavier delays on I-12 at O'Neill. Today, looking a lot more smooth. Still going to have some of those backups, but traffic is going to be moving a little bit better. So I-12 still flowing pretty well. Some backups on those on-ramps getting on I-12. 190, however, looking pretty clear, especially at 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190, so not too bad today. Some minor delays on 64 heading into Central. Getting in your weather today, 80 degrees is your current temperature, 93 your high. So it is going to be another warm one today, not quite as bad as it has been the last week or so, but it's still going to get up to about 93 degrees, heat index of 98 to 100. So again, not as bad, still going to be bad. Please remember, stay hydrated, wear cool clothing. Try to stay indoors if at all possible. Try to stay around air conditioning and a fan. 76 degrees is going to be your overnight low. Looking at a 40% chance of thunderstorms this afternoon, which is a good thing. Hopefully that's going to lower that temperature a little bit. Looking at your mitigation efforts, before we get into your coronavirus statistics, wear a mask in public if at all possible. Wash your hands for 20 seconds or more with soap and water. 6 feet of distance between yourself and others in public. Control your cough or sneezing with an elbow, your elbow preferably, and a tissue. Don't touch your face, my favorite one. Stay home if you're sick and utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor, and try to stay home to work if possible, and 25 or less to a gathering. Getting into your coronavirus statistics real quick. 82,042 statewide cases in Louisiana, 3,337 deaths, 46,334 have recovered. So looking at about 36,000 active cases statewide, 976,000 total tests across Louisiana, 1,362 are hospitalized on 146 ventilators. The cases in Livingston Parish continue to grow. I'm sorry I didn't pull those results this morning. I do apologize for that. Please forgive me on that when I dropped the ball. Getting into Vice President Pence's visit yesterday. Lots to talk about there, lots to unpackage, but we're going to kind of use that. Yeah, Joe. I had somebody, I used to say with an elbow or a tissue, and somebody called me out on that and said, preferably it'd be your elbow. I said, yeah, preferably it would. Getting into Vice President Pence's visit yesterday, lots of important things. There were two major parts of it. We're going to discuss one part first, which is masking up, and then we're going to move into school. Everybody that was there, including state officials, as well as those who were from the federal task force, is for school opening on time. So we want to throw that out there real quick. We're going to talk about that in a second, because that's going to lead into Bessie, or the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, who did release guidelines, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So according to Vice President Pence, the federal task force is there to support states' efforts to curb COVID-19. With the exception of some more extreme cases, the task force is there, I guess you can say, to back up these states. And he confirmed that he, Vice President Pence, and his task force have been in consistent contact with Governor John Bel Edwards, and they have been, a lot of the things that Governor John Bel Edwards has done has been at their behest or their suggestion, along with the suggestion of local health officials, including Dr. Alex Bu from the Louisiana Department of Health. And so one of the things that Vice President Pence, as well as Dr. Birx, who was also on the task force and who came with Pence here to Louisiana, is that you need to mask up. You need to wear a mask. It is important. It's something that we are trying to come together as a country and do. It's something that does help. So please, please, please wear a mask. It's a good thing. It's a good precedent to set for kids who are going to be going to school and who are going to be needing to wear masks according to the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. Again, we're going to get to that in a second. But Governor John Bel Edwards got up and also touted the partnership with the federal government. The testing is continuing to ramp up. Again, that's 976,000 tests. One of the things that the governor said is that we're staring a million total tests down. We are one of the top states for testing in the country, which is a good thing. That means that we are staying ahead of this as best as possible. According to Dr. Bill Cassidy, who is a senator and a physician, we have a lot of crises that are born of this or public health emergency. And he said, people need to take personal responsibility for how they treat the public health emergency because it will help those other crises. We have an economic crisis, we have an employment crisis, we have a family crisis, education crisis. In order to solve those things, we have to first admit that we have a public health emergency and we must solve that problem. John Kennedy, a senator, who is actually a doctor of laws, but he is not a physician, also said that there were some countries that were able to open their schools safely in other parts of the world. Now, of course, a lot of them had adopted the masks early on, a lot of testing, a lot less population than we have total in our entire country. So they were able to sort of act independently and figure out ways to attack this directly. But now there seems to be a federal surge and a push to try to attack this directly. Now, everybody who got up there and spoke yesterday said that they were for schools opening and schools opening on time. Now, there are several school districts throughout Louisiana who have already announced that they are going to start school later, try to give more time to get more rules out, more time to get the coronavirus under control. We're not sure if Livingston Parish is going to do that right now, but there are several districts that have moved it past Labor Day to start school. So we'll see what Livingston Parish does. But coming into that, one of the things the governor said yesterday as well at that press conference at LSU is that the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education were supposed to come out with rules and guidelines, which they did last night, which were approved. We're going to go through those in just a second. But they are born of HB 59, now called Act 9 of the legislature. It was authored by our own Buddy Mincy from here in Livingston Parish. And it is an attempt to try to get the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, along with the Louisiana Department of Education, and all subsequent administrations for schooling below that, to come together and try to find a set of rules to try to limit liability for these administrative bodies. So they came up with a lot of different rules. This is a minimum health standard, so these are minimum health standards and guidelines for school districts. One of the things that Vice President Pence said yesterday, which is very important, and it has come out, even the director of the CDC has said this, that's the Centers for Disease Control, they do not want to prevent schools from opening with these CDC guidelines. So they want people to try to follow them, try to stay safe, but they also want to reopen school as soon as possible. So here are, some of these are based on where the state is. Of course, right now we're in phase 2. We're not going backwards as of right now. We do have the new mask mandate, but we are in phase 2, which is important. And we will be hopefully moving into phase 3 by the time school opens if we can get these things under control, which means please wear a mask. Now, getting into it, group sizes, which also include classroom sizes, are 10, and these are physical kids, 10 plus a teacher. 10, 25, and 50 based on phase 1, 2, and 3. So 50 would be the total. 50, especially in Livingston Parish, would cover just about every class size. PE would be different, but for the most part, classes would remain intact. So we are really looking to get to that phase 3. So please remember, wear a mask. Getting into phase 3 is extremely important. Pardon me, throwing my pen this morning. Getting into phase 3 is extremely important for getting these schools back on track the way they want to be. The way, normal class sizes, going through your normal day. The day won't exactly be normal, but at least getting into class and being at the proper sizes is important. So please remember, phase 3 is a big target. 10 maximum in phase 1, 25 maximum in phase 2, and 50 maximum in phase 3. Now, excuse me, in terms of, composition of those groups, physical distancing is going to be necessary. That's going to complicate things a little bit. They're trying to look for that 6 feet of distance or more. Probably not going to get it in some of the larger classes, especially in these high schools, which is why masks are going to be important. Now, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and say that masks are required for grades 3 through 12. For grades 2 through pre-K, they are not going to be required, but they are going to be recommended. Again, that's going to be about parents at home trying to show their kids that it's okay to wear a mask. It's not that bad. I know a lot of people, they complain about it. It's tough because it's so hot, which is why a lot of schools have moved school start time back because it will be cooler. It will be a lot easier to keep those kids in masks. But again, masks are going to be required for grades 3 through 12. Excuse me, in terms of facility use, if groups are indoors, it must be in hallways or, not dormitories, but, sections of the school. Those classrooms must be sectioned off with a physical wall or a partition, so those groups are not together. And if they're outside, they must be physically distanced. Here is a interesting part. Upon arrival at school, schools are going to be required to monitor children for COVID-like symptoms. That includes fever, that includes cough, those kinds of things as these students are arriving. Now, anybody who's passed by Live Oak High, Walker High, Denham High in the morning knows that it is a surge of kids in the morning, so they're going to have to be specific rules that are going to be set forward for them to be able to keep up with monitoring those symptoms, especially fever. That's going to be a tough one. Facility cleaning must be done multiple times per day, especially in high-touch areas. Again, the school board had purchased a school cleaning, I guess you can call it a cart, back in early 2020, before we even really started dealing with the coronavirus here in Louisiana or here in the United States, in anticipation of having to sanitize schools daily. They still have that cart. I would imagine that they're going to purchase more in order to prepare for that. Hygiene. Children are going to be required, and older students, so young adults, are going to be required to wash hands before and after mealtime and every 2 hours at least during the day. Hand sanitizer also must be available inside the classroom. That is part of the extra supplies that are required by Bessie and must be provided to these teachers. Now, it's going to be interesting to see, that costs money. So where's that money going to come from? Is it going to come from the federal government? There is a bill out there that has been introduced by Dr. Bill Cassidy. It is a bipartisan bill. They are looking to provide extra funding, roughly $1.8 million per school system, to help them get lifted up and be able to meet some of these requirements that are coming out at a federal and state level, because a lot of school districts aren't going to be able to afford it. So it's going to be interesting to see if that money will come through, because there are things here that cost money. Here is one thing. Transportation. This is going to be an interesting part of dealing with the coronavirus. With regard to buses, these are percentages based on phases. Phase 1, 25% capacity on buses. Phase 2, 50%. Phase 3, 75%. So we're still not going to be able to get all those kids on those buses. I would imagine, I still don't know, we've gotten our normal line from the school board. They're going to take it. They're going to analyze it. They're going to have to come up with a plan. So we're going to give the school board time and the schools time to come up with their plans. We will release those plans to you as soon as we have them. However, very important to note that, again, buses, 25% in phase 1, 50% in phase 2, and 75% in phase 3. So if you very much need to put your kids on the bus in the morning, it's a very good idea if you wear a mask during the day. It's just a good idea. And I want to run back real quick to Vice President Mike Pence, and one of the things he said. He said that very simply: wearing a mask practicing good hygiene, following the mitigation efforts, it's just a good idea. He said it real flat, not a whole lot of emotion out of Vice President Mike Pence, but he said it very flatly. It is just a good idea. Now, he also, to kind of wrap this up, that we've learned recently. There was a lot of information that came out Sunday and Monday that we're going to reiterate real quick here in just a second. But one of the things that Mike Pence said is that he agreed with Coach Ed Ogeron of LSU. We need football in the fall. But in order to have football in the fall, we've got to get a control over the coronavirus. So please, please, please remember to practice those mitigation efforts, which I'm going to cover one more time real quick. Wear a mask in public if at all possible. Wash your hands for 20 seconds or more with soap and water. 6 feet of distance or more between yourself and others in public. Control cough and sneezing, preferably with your elbow or a tissue. Don't touch your face, my favorite one. Stay home if you're sick and utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor. Try to stay home to work if at all possible. And 25 or less to a gathering, preferably less. Want to talk about some of those things that came up just real brief that were from yesterday. One, yes, it is correct that Parish President Leighton Ricks, in spirit, does not support strict enforcement of the mask mandate. However, it is important to read his full statement because in the end, he does not have a choice. The parish is still going to enforce mask rules at parish offices and are in full support of the sheriff and law enforcement, who also confirmed yesterday, Monday morning, that they will be responding to mask calls from businesses. So if people come into a business not wearing a mask, they're asked to either put on a mask or leave. If they do not comply, law enforcement can be called, and you will be able to utilize trespassing law to charge an individual. Now, it's also important to remember that individuals can call about businesses that are not practicing social distancing and masking up. That would be to the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness or the State Fire Marshal. Both of those would be governing that side of it. So it's important to remember that while in spirit, Parish President Leighton Ricks does not support the masking up, it does not matter. The parish will follow the mandate, as will law enforcement. It's also important to remember, as we talked about football earlier, the LHSAA's phases do not match up with the state phases. They are different. Right now, most coaches are preparing for their kids, and this is football, cross-country, volleyball. They're lifting, they're working out over the summer. They are preparing to start their seasons on time. So we will see if that happens. Of course, a lot of fall football coming around is about masking up. So please mask up. Please think about the kids, especially getting into phase 3. Phase 3 for Louisiana is going to be the most normal for kids at school. So that is important. So we covered a lot today. I recommend you go back and take a look at this if you can. We do have stories about what was said at the press conference yesterday at LSU. We do also have a full list online of all of those guidelines that the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education released yesterday. You can check them out at www.livingstonparishnewscom/coronavirus. One last time with your statistics: 82,042 cases, 3,337 deaths, 46,334 have recovered, 976,000 total tests. It's a great number across the state. We are moving towards that 1 million number. We are one of the top states for testing in the country. 1,362 are hospitalized on 146 ventilators. So that number continues to grow. One last time with your traffic. It's looking pretty clear today, especially compared to yesterday. There were some delays yesterday on I-12. Not looking as bad. Still kind of the bump and grind moving into Baton Rouge, but moving a lot better than it was yesterday. On-ramp delays are normal and some minor delays on 64. However, 190 looking pretty clear. It's currently 80 degrees. 93 degrees is your high today. Probably heat index of 99, 100 roughly. 76 degrees your overnight low, so it's going to get cool, which is a nice thing. Part of that's looking because of a 40% chance of afternoon thunderstorms, so I'd recommend, if you haven't left this morning, to pack an umbrella. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. Please remember, we are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We are also online, as we've mentioned, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We have a podcast page, which is free. You can get these shows, audio and video versions. We also have a coronavirus page, which is free, and a breaking news page, which has state and federal news, which is free as well. Appreciate you guys joining us again. It's good to be back. Hope you have a great hump day, and we will see you tomorrow morning.